Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. We've got another video for you today. Before we do, shout out to Rare Rush for joining our elite members area. And if you haven't seen that already, check that out in the join button below. Blue button, click join for more information. Also, 43% of you have yet to subscribe to the channel, so I'd really appreciate it if you did that as well. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 units for the Novokh dynasty. So the Novokh dynasty, who are the Novokh dynasty? Now, you guys know I'm not big on the lore, but from a gamer's perspective, they're your choppy melee guys. They like to slice and dice. Now they get that +1 to the charge roll, and they get that added -1 AP in that first fight round. Now you guys may have noticed that I did say dynasty and not dynasty. For some reason that's always the way I've said it. I can't change it, unfortunately. I know a few of you guys have already been commenting that I would say dynasty in the American way. That's just the way I'm going to say it. Apologies. Something before we get into this top 5 as well is the stratagem, which is blood rights. Now for one command point, your unit can basically have an additional attack per model in that fight phase. Now this is going to be available to all units within this top 5. Now I've not mentioned it too often within this top 5 list. Just bear in mind that it's there throughout the video, because I've spoken more about their actual unique abilities and synergies. So now let's get on to the top 5. Now in at number 5 we've got the Lich Guard. Now the Lich Guard come with 2 different options in terms of the weaponry. Both are melee options. The first one is the War Scythe, which is strength 7, -4 AP and 2 damage, or you get the Hyperphase Swords with the Dispersion Fields, and these are only strength 6, but they're -3 AP, however only 1 damage. Now with the sword option you do get the 4+ invuln save, which we'll go over in a second, but these are quite slicey and dicey, or they can defend your objectives depending on how you play them. So if you want to be holding on to objective, being really tanky, you of course take those 4+ invuln saves, and if you want to be going out killing things, you take the War Scythes. Now unfortunately these guys do lack a little bit of movement. They've only got a 5-inch movement and they've only got 2 wounds per model. However, they do get to come in units of up to 10. Now stratagems of note, they've got Eternal Protectors, so if they're within 3 inches of a noble character, they simply get an extra attack, which then puts them up to 4 attacks. And like with most of the units with the Novokh code, you can use the stratagem Disruption Fields, which basically is a +1 to your strength of your weapons of those core units for that phase. So now all of a sudden your strength 7 War Scythes are now strength 8, so they're going to be wounding Space Marines on a 2+. Now why they aren't higher up in the entries is simply because their bodyguard ability has been pretty much nerfed now. Previously, if they were within 3 inches of a noble character, then they effectively couldn't be targeted. The noble character couldn't be targeted whatsoever, whereas now it just simply goes on to the Lookout Sir ability, so sniper rifles and things like that can still get at our character models. So that ability has been nerfed, which is why I put them in at number 5. Now a few noteworthy mentions for some synergy with the Lich Guard. Of course you've got the Overlords with the My Will Be Done ability, so that they'll be hitting on 2s as opposed to hitting on 3s, especially with those War Scythes. That's going to be really handy. So you could take a Veil of Darkness on your Overlord to get your Lich Guard closer to enemy units. That will slightly nullify the fact that they only move 5 inches in their movement phase. Then furthermore, he could actually take a Resurrection Orb for 30 points if you wanted to try and bring some of your Lich Guard models back. Now a noteworthy mention here is Anrak the Traveller, because if you've got core units that are within 6 inches, they're going to get to +1 to their attacks as well. So potentially you could be using Anrak the Traveller's ability, along with the My Will Be Done ability that he also has, the Relentless March ability for the extra bit of movement, the Lich Guard stratagem, and then the actual Novokh stratagem as well, which is another attack on top of that. So a little bit of synergy to get your Lich Guard slicing and dicing. Coming in at number 4 is the Ophidian Destroyers. Now what I love about these guys is they've got the Tunneling Horrors ability, so it's effectively Deep Strike. They can come in from turn 2 onwards, anywhere on the battlefield, more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So that's really good for scoring your secondary objectives if you want to do that. Or it's just going to be a really good distraction unit because your opponent has to deal with them. Furthermore, they're a -1 to hit in melee, which is also really handy. That's going to keep them alive somewhat. However, their toughness and their armor save does let them down. They've only got a toughness value of a 4, and the armor save is only a 4+ as well. So they are kind of glass hammer. However, they are pretty quick. They've got a 10-inch movement, so they will get into your opponent's faces if they need to. And even if they're caught out of position, you've got the stratagem Burrowing Nightmares to literally re-deep strike them, re-tunnel them in somewhere else on the battlefield, but it will be on the next turn. Now these guys have got a lot of attacks, and naturally they're re-rolling 1s to hit because they're destroyer units. So 1 out of the 3 models will have the Reap Blade, which is strength +2, making it strength 6, -4 AP and 3 damage. Then the other 2 models are going to have the Hyperphase Threshers, which is strength user, making them strength 4, -3 AP and 2 damage. So they're still pretty good when you're killing off marine models, for example. That damage too is obviously quite valuable. Now they do get an extra attack with the Threshers. Now furthermore, all units have the Ophidian Claws, so each of the models are going to get 2 additional attacks. It will only be strength 4 and it will only be -1 AP. Now unfortunately with the new Armour of Contempt rules against power armour, that -1 AP will go to no AP. However, when you're going against weaker stuff, toughness 3 kind of models, without the power armour of course, then it's quite effective. They're going to synergise pretty nicely with the Scorpet Lord, because now they can reroll wound rolls of a 1 as well as the hit rolls of a 1 because of that Scorpet Lord. And the same applies with the Locust Lord as well, which is actually more a cost efficient Destroyer Lord if you wanted to save on points. Furthermore, a Chronomancer could be quite handy here, especially if you give him the Dimensional Sanctum Cryptic Arcana, so he can be deep striking in, where your Ophidian Destroyers are tunnelling in to meet them at the same location. Then you can be giving them that 5+ invuln save along with their reroll to their charge roll. Now if you wanted a different Cryptek, you've of course got the Technomancer, which can simply bring model back each and every turn, and with the Canoptic Cloak can either be healing a model, D3 lost wounds. So both of those Crypteks are quite valued when it comes to Ophidian Destroyers. Two last bits of synergy that a lot of people seem to forget. The first one is the Canoptic Plasma Sight. Now I personally don't use it anymore, but the Canoptic Plasma Sight, only 15 points, also has the Dimensional Translocation ability, so that can also be deep striking in, and it will stay in close proximity to your actual Ophidian Destroyers. You can use that to charge if there's any Overwatch, especially if you're going against Tau and things like that, or just a gunline heavy army. You want to be throwing in your Plasma Sight, because we don't want to be losing Ophidian Destroyers to Overwatch. Then with their Infused Madness ability, you can be buffing up your Ophidian Destroyers even further, with more attacks and more strength to the weaponry. Then the last tiny bit of synergy is the Hexmark Destroyer. Again, not a common one, but you could use him with the Dimensional Translocation ability yet again, but this time he's a character model, so he can now provide the command protocols to your Ophidian Destroyers. Now the main reason to be using Ophidian Destroyers in terms of your secondary objectives is because of the battlefield supremacy options. Two that spring to mind: behind enemy lines of course. Having 2 units behind enemy lines in the enemy deployment zone is going to be scoring you 4 points a turn. Or engage on all fronts. You're going to be wanting all 4 of the quarters, not just your own quarters. So engage on all fronts with a unit that can tunnel in is going to score you victory points. Okay, that was number 4. We're now on to number 3, which is the Flayed ones. Now Flayed ones do have some basic stats. They've only got a movement of 5 inches, strength and toughness 4, 1 wound. However, they do have 3 attacks per model, and you can have up to 20 Flayed ones in a single unit, which is pretty powerful if you can get them into combat. This is another unit that's got the Dimensional Translocation ability, so again you can be deep striking these guys in, whether you're bringing them in units of 5 to do your secondaries, or you're bringing them in a big blob of 20 to be causing some carnage. When they're in a fight, 6s to hit will score an additional hit, which makes them even better, and units that are close by are also going to lose a little bit of leadership as well, which doesn't always come into play. Morale isn't the biggest thing, however, with some factions it can be quite devastating. Now the Flare Claws are only strength 4 and the -1 AP, but again Armour of Contempt kind of nullifies that, it goes down to no AP. But with the sheer amount of attacks with 20 models, you should be doing quite a bit of damage, especially if you're using the 2 stratagems that are associated with the Flayed ones. First one being Storm of the Flensing Blades, and for 2 command points you simply just fight again with every model in the unit. Or you can use the second stratagem, which is Shadows of Drazak. Now this one's only 1 command point, and it just simply makes them a -1 to hit. And that can be used in any of your opponent's phases. It could be the opponent's shooting phase, it could be the opponent's fight phase. So you could use it in both of them in fact, but there'll be a -1 to hit your Flayed ones. Now I always like to talk about the synergy. Now with synergy with the Flayed ones, the Chronomancer, if you want to give them all an invuln save, doesn't work so well with 5-men units, but when you've got 20 with 5+ invuln saves, that's pretty mega. And again, with that reroll to their charge roll as well, that could be pretty big. And this time I want to mention the Psychomancer because of his ability, the Nightmare Shroud, which is an aura for enemy units within 6 inches are going to -1 to their leadership. Now if you remember the Terrifying Foes ability that the actual Flayed ones have, they're a -2 to enemy leadership if they're within 3 inches. So if you combine both of those together, that'll be a -3 to enemy leadership within 3 inches. Sometimes that can be completely useless, but sometimes it can be absolutely brutal. Now don't forget they are a core unit, so you can get your My Will Be Done from the Overlord kind of models. But the reason I personally like to take Flayed ones isn't so much to bring them in units of 20, it's to bring them in units of 5 to be scoring the following secondary objectives. Now the Shadow Operations list has 4 in particular that I want to mention, and they are Raise the Banners, Retrieve Nutman Data, Investigate Signal, and Deploy Teleport Homers. Because they're an infantry unit, they can be doing all 4 of those if you've selected any of them. And especially when they've got the Dimensional Translocation ability, you can get them pretty much anywhere you want them to go, providing that you've got that 9-inch bubble around enemy models of course. Now furthermore, just like the Ophidian Destroyers, you can do behind enemy lines and engage on all fronts as well with these guys, and you're doing it for fairly cheap as well. They're only 10 points a model, and if you're taking a unit of 5 of them, that's only 50 points, that's scoring you some victory points. Okay, we're on to number 2 of this Novokh list, and I've gone with the Canoptic Wraiths. Now these guys are moving at 12 inches, so they're pretty rapid, And they're pretty tough as well with their toughness of 5 and 3 wounds apiece as well. Now what I love about Canoptic Wraiths is the fact that they can declare a charge even though they've fallen back. They can also shoot as well if you did upgrade them with some ranged weapons. But their best party piece is their Wraith Form ability, which gives them a 4+ invulnerable save, and then furthermore they can basically ghost through terrain and other models as if they weren't even there. So it's effectively like having the fly keyword without having the fly keyword. Now they've got tons of weapon options which I really like about them as well. The first one is the main one, which is the Vicious Claws, which are strength 2, making them strength 6, -2 AP and 2 damage. So these used to be the Marine Killers, but even against toughness 3 factions they're only wounded on 2s. Okay, the damage does go to waste slightly, but it's not the worst option if you don't know your opponent as well. Then the Whip Claws, which are only strength user but they're strength 4, -1 AP and 1 damage, but you get double the amount of attacks with these things, which will bring them up to 8 attacks per Canoptic Wraith. So again, really valuable against toughness 3 factions, especially ones that have got a low armor save, because there's not much AP, only -1 AP, that's your target for the Whip Coils. Now as already mentioned, they've got the option of taking a ranged weapon, so you've got the Particle Caster for only 5 points, it's a 2-shot 12-inch pistol at strength 6, no AP, 1 damage, not the worst option and can be fired into combat, and the Transdimensional Beamer for 10 points per model. It's also only a 12-inch range, but it's Assault 1, so you could advance with this thing and it will be a -1 to hit, but the Canoptic Wraiths already hit on 4s, so hitting on 5s if you do advance probably isn't the best way of going about it. But this thing is strength 4, -3 AP and a flat 3 damage. Now it is capable of taking out a Terminator model, but you do need to hit, you do need to wound, then you do need to go through an invuln save, so you do need to take a whole unit of these in order to maybe get some through, but that becomes quite expensive. But to be honest, I don't really take ranged weapons with my Canoptic Wraiths. Their main job is to go tying up units and scoring me primary objectives. Now one of the ways to do that is using the Enslaved Protector stratagem for a command point. So in your opponent's charge phase, your Canoptic unit can simply heroically intervene as if they were a character model. So again, this could get you onto an objective, but it's definitely going to tie up the models. So they're going to be stuck with your Canoptic Wraiths, which as already mentioned have that 4+ invuln save. They're going to be quite difficult to shift. Now synergy wise for the Canoptic Wraith, again you've got your Technomancer with a Canoptic Cloak. Instead you can opt for that Canoptic Control node so that your Wraiths will be hitting on 3s as opposed to 4s. Again he's got that Rites of Reanimation ability as we said earlier, so he can be bringing back a model each and every turn. Then if you go into the Cryptek Arcana, you can use your Failsafe Overcharger. Now this is a Technomancer Arcana only, so what this simply does is you select a Canoptic unit within 9 inches of the Technomancer and it's a +1 to all models within that unit. So if you've got a full unit of 6 Canoptic Wraiths, you're going to get 6 additional attacks, and if you've got the Whip Coils, those 6 attacks become 12 attacks because you get double the amount of attacks. What I personally like to do is take a Catacomb Command Barge and flank your Wraiths with the Catacomb Command Barge, so they're going to be getting that My Will Be Done ability, so they'll be hitting on 3s. They get the Relentless March ability, so they're going to be moving 13 inches as opposed to 12 inches. Or furthermore, you can use the Silent King. He's another fast option that needs protecting. And he's got all sorts of shenanigans that can be re-rolling hit rolls and re-rolling win rolls. And he's got that Fair On ability as well, so he can use his My Will Be Done ability on 2 complete different units. So if you flank the Silent King with 2 completely separate units of Canoptic Wraiths, he'll be using My Will Be Done on both of them. So that's it for the Canoptic Wraiths. We're down to number 1. The best unit in my opinion for the Novokh dynasty is the Canoptic Destroyers. Now these guys are pretty quick with 8 inches, but I love the fact they've got strength and toughness 5, not like the Ophidian Destroyers with strength and toughness 4. These guys are strength and toughness 5. Now these guys have got the exact same weapons as the Ophidian Destroyers. They've got the Reap Blades and the Hyperface Threshers. Now of course they don't have the Ophidian Claws. However, with that added bit of strength they have in their datasheet, it means their Reap Blades are strength 7 and their Hyperface Threshers are strength 5. So once you start synergizing things like the Disruption Field Stratagem to add 1 to the strength, or one of the command protocols, the Hungry Void one I believe it is, get an extra bit of strength that way. You can have strength 6 Threshers, or you can have a strength 8 Reap Blade, with a lot of attacks, a lot of AP and a lot of damage. Now one of their party tricks is the Stratagem Whirling Onslaught, which is a -1 to wound against your Canoptic Destroyers, which is actually massive when you think about it. When you break it down, even strength 9 weapons that would normally wound on a 3+, now need 4s, and anything strength 4 or less is now going to need 6s. So it's a really powerful stratagem, especially when used correctly. Now again we've got to mention the Canoptic Lord and the Destroyer Lord as the synergy options. And this time you can use the Veil of Darkness relic on these guys if you wanted to, although they do move at 8 inches so they do have the speed, but if you wanted to get them in nice and early, or late game depending on how you're playing, you can get them 9 inches away from enemy models with the Veil of Darkness relic. In a very similar way that I use Canoptic Wraiths, they can be used with a Catacomb Command Barge. Now they won't be as good as the Canoptic Wraiths because they don't have the invuln save naturally, so they won't be the best bodyguard option. They should be out slicing and dicing. However, they'll get the My Will Be Done ability, so they're going to be hitting on 2s and re-rolling 1s because of their Destroyer Cult keyword. However, the best 2 options are from the Cryptek models, the Chronomancer for the Chronometron ability, re-rolling the charge roll, and of course get that invuln save. They don't have any invuln save whatsoever, so it could be crucial giving them that 5+ save, or a Technomancer to be bringing 1 back and healing 1 back D3 lost wounds each time. Both of those Cryptek models can be very valuable for Scorpion Destroyers. Then finally, don't forget that Plasma Sight as well. He can do something, especially in Overwatch. Okay guys, that's my top 5 Novokh Dynasty units. Let me know in the comments below which are your top 5. Put them in ranked order, 1 to 5 of course. Let's see how we compare, and also if you haven't already, join the Discord. We did have this set up on the Discord, so people on the Discord have already put their top 5 probably about a month ago now. So we've already had this conversation on Discord long ago, so you get to see in advance what kind of videos that we're going to be putting up on the channel. So guys, all that's left to say is thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.